Robert.
Yo, what's shaking, AC?
I'm waiting for you to one day go, what's shaking?
What is shaking?
Yo, what is shaking, Angela Cote? All right, so we're going to talk metrics today. So we're going to demystify a little bit in a short period of time, in under 10 minutes. We're going to just demystify complete. No, I'm kidding. We're going to try to simplify metrics a little bit.
Metrics are so important. I find that a lot of franchisees, regardless what system they're in, they're like, yeah, I know how much money I'm making because you look at your bank account every day. You know, you don't always think about your costs. Oh yeah, the internet bill came in, the cost of goods sold bill came in. Okay, and this is how much I got left, and you kind of have this vague understanding.
Yeah.
But unless you understand it, you aren't able to pivot or point in the direction that you need to, because metrics are so important.
Right. So let's start with the P&L statement. So we're going to talk about the P&L statement today. We're going to talk about optimizing profitability by knowing your economics, and then we're going to talk a little bit about your key performance indicators, KPIs.
Yeah.
But starting with the profit and loss statement. So if you're not clear on this, just to be clear, this is the statement that shows you how much money you made, right? So you've got your revenue that you brought in, your sales. You've got how much money went out in expenses and labor and cost of goods sold, things that you spent money on to run the business.
Yep.
And what's left at the end of the day.
Right. And so sometimes it's called a statement of income. Sometimes it's called a statement of operations. But the thing is that it represents what's happening over a period of time, whether it's beginning of the year to the end of the year or 2 years or whatever, in your business, and specifically around the business operations. So like Angela said, income minus cost of goods sold minus operating expenses tells you how profitable your business is. That doesn't necessarily tell you how profitable you are. It doesn't really get into too much of payment of taxes, payment of loans. You could say, hey, look at my business made 100 grand, but listen, I had to take a $2 million loan to start this business, so this 100 grand isn't going into my pocket. So people oftentimes confuse that a lot. And to get an all-encompassing view of that larger perception, you have to look at your balance sheet, which is the state of your business at a current point of time since inception. And it includes things like assets, liabilities, your equity. And so cross-referencing those things gives you a better idea. So if that stuff sounds foreign to you, that just means that you need to get on this.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, you're a franchisor.
Right.
Are you willing to help your franchisees understand their metrics?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
If you're a franchisee and you're like, I just still don't get it, I don't know my profit and loss statement, I don't understand the balance sheet, get help from the franchisor, your field person, or if you're a smaller brand, from whoever supports you on the franchisor team. They want you to understand this and be able to impact your profitability. Now I want to jump in with a little story. When I started my store, I had my first M&M Meat Shop store as a franchisee. We did really well in our first year from a revenue perspective. We always like to pretend it's because we were awesome, but it's because the market was ready. It was store number 300. And so we thought, well, this will be like, we could spend more. And the franchisor was telling us, our field consultant was telling us, you need to keep your labor percentage at whatever it was. I can't remember, maybe 10% of your sales. And we went ahead and just said, you know what, we're going to pay our staff more. Well, that ended up biting us in the behind, because our staff, all we ended up with was complacent, entitled staff.
Yep.
So find out what percentages, the point of the story is, find out what the biggest variable levers are on your profit and loss statement that affect your bottom line. But you should kind of know they all need to be. Over time, you'll get better at that. But initially, it's usually your labor and your marketing that you're spending. And maybe if your cost of goods sold, if you've got food that you're doing the purchasing for.
Or not the franchisor, from agreements in the FTD.
Yeah, but check those things. And if this is kind of making sense, cool. If not, get some help on the profit and loss statement. So let's now go into optimizing profitability by refining your economics.
I love business economics.
Oh, gosh. Okay, go.
You know what? I've found that, and you may not have the liberty or the privilege to do this with the economics of your business model, but I've found that the best way to optimize the economics of your business model is to work backwards from your net profit rather than from the revenue. Some people say, okay, I'm going to make this much money, 100,000. Pay 50,000 in cost of goods sold. I got to get rent, or whatever, and then I'm left with $5,000. So let's start backwards. Let's say I want want to be left with 50,000 or I want to be left with 100. So now I look at all these lines and say, what do I need to increase and what do I need to decrease in order to achieve that goal? Some of the stuff you may not be able to decrease, like your rent if you're signed into a lease. Maybe all of it you can't decrease and your result has to be increasing revenue. At least now you know what you need to focus on, whether it's marketing or driving customers or whatever it is. But maybe there's opportunities there to adjust your cost. Maybe it ignites innovation and you can go to your franchisor and say, hey, I found a way for us to save money on this particular line item.
And sometimes you should know the amounts, because sometimes you might be overspending in one area and underspending in an area and you're not getting the results you want, but it doesn't show up on the bottom line. You just know that you're not, getting where you want to be, but it's offsetting each other. So that's why it's important to know and get
like a benchmark, right?
Yeah, benchmarks for every line item, for everything on your profit and loss statement.
What we've got is we've got a profit and loss statement as well as the benchmark of what it should be for that month.
Right.
And we look at it every month and then we can see where we're over and where we're under.
And that's a great reminder that
see how excited I am?
I know, you're so nerdy. I got excited about community marketing. So now I'm like coming down from the high. But it's really important to know those line items, and your franchisor should know that because they run the same business. They started that business. There's other franchisees in the system. So there's lots of resources to figure that out. Let's talk about KPIs, key performance indicators, sometimes called OKR. No, OKRs are goals. I forget what that stands for.
Yep.
Anyway, that's fine. So metrics, the main metrics of your business. So I always think it's a good idea to know, to get really clear on what are the most important KPIs that make a difference for whether you make money at the end of the day. And these are usually things like new customers in the door, or new, trial classes. If you're running a kids education, business, coding or whatever, or if you're running a gym, trial, people come for a trial class. Conversion from trial to membership. That's probably a number you're really going to care about. Maybe it might be top line sales, but for us back in the day, we found that our top line sales could be good, but if we didn't monitor our margins, we could be really going gangbusters with revenue and not bringing any money home at the end of the day on the profit and loss statement. So a metric for us that really mattered in retail frozen food, was our gross margin. So if customers were coming in and they were buying all these things that were on the front page of our flyer, which were the deepest discounted products, and we didn't try to get them to try other great products at full price, then we would be basically not making any money. And we would joke that we couldn't pay the staff. Not to the staff, but we would say, So knowing what are the levers, what are the key performance, like the key performance indicators in your business, what would be your main one at Control V?
We have 3 that we focus on.
I want your main.
Main is going to be probably response time. So when somebody needs help in VR and they press help, I need an adult, how long it takes for an attendant to get there. We're like sub 6 seconds.
And so that leads to people wanting to come back because
that leads to revenue because they will come back because they had such a good time. It leads to great customer service, which leads to revenue because they want to come back because they have such a good time.
Also, probably they play longer.
They play longer
because they didn't waste time.
Yep,
they might add another hour or something, right?
Absolutely.
And then they spread the word. Okay, so that's a big service.
That's our biggest thing because
tell me the other 2.
Okay, well the other one is a revenue metric, but it isn't revenue. I don't want our franchisees saying how much money am I making. I'd rather them see how many new customers they brought in, because that is revenue, and we're fairly confident that they will come back at a 40% return rate, so that'll generate recurring revenue. So I want to know how many new customers you're bringing in. And then the third one is the largest expense that you just want to make sure you're honed in on and have a grasp on, which for us is usually labor.
Yeah, that's so important. And so what I always like to say is if you can figure out what those are and reverse engineer your P&L to try to figure out, and this is a bit complicated, I can't get into the details, talk to your franchise business coach or reach out to us, but you understand what steps you need to take to get there, to hit your KPIs that are going to get you to hit the right amount on your profit and loss statement.
Let's wrap it up.
Boom. Okay.
Mic drop.
3, 2, 1. Go be awesome.